You know, normally I prefer to keep things lighthearted on this channel. I just want to use this platform to make you smile after a hard day's work. That's why I rarely discuss serious topics such as Yamcha being Dragon Ball's best character or Ice Spice being an industry plant. I know most people are just not ready to handle such heavy topics. But a wise man once said, to limit yourself is to limit yourself. What they were trying to say is, things may start out great, but eventually they could go sour. Now, nobody actually said that previous quote because I just made it up. But now that I have your attention, allow me to paint a picture. Imagine a world where there was a Steph Curry before there was a Steph Curry. A world where a shifty 6'1" NBA guard had unlimited range and could put 30 on your head at any given night. But then he was robbed of his career because of his personal beliefs. That actually all happened, and it's all highlighted in an interesting documentary I recently watched called Stand. Stand is available right now on Showtime, and it follows the story of Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Now, for those of you unaware, Mahmoud is a basketball prodigy who built his name in
the crooked letter, crooked letter, crooked letter, humpback, make them all die.
I knew a little bit about this guy's story, but I was young when most of this went down in the early to mid 90s, so it was nice to watch a film that painted a much larger picture. To summarize things without spoiling too much, Mahmoud was a rising star in the NBA who chose to sit during the national anthem. He silently protested the hypocrisy of the United States. A radio host eventually noticed it, questioned him, and Mahmoud is a Muslim, so you kind of get the idea of where this is going. Long story short, this leads to him slowly being blackballed out of the league, and that's the story that I knew. But this documentary dives much deeper into the mind of Mahmoud, his upbringing, the backlash, and even a redemption arc eventually. The first thing that was new to me was his Tourette's. Now, admittedly, I was ignorant to Tourette's syndrome. I've never done proper research on it, seeing as I've never had a reason to, so I was under the presumption that it was a person that just blurts out random things, and that is a component to it, but he suffered more from like tics and random quick twitches, so it was nice to have a better understanding of what people go through and also how it affected his day-to-day life. Now, when he first entered the league, they put him on medication, so he ended up struggling when he first got to the NBA. But upon converting to Islam, he found freedom. It was nice to see Mahmoud touch on this too. Not because I'm Muslim or I'm even religious for that matter. More so, I enjoyed the concept of a man sharing what worked for him and speaking on it with such conviction and such confidence. It was sharing a path that maybe some of you have never even considered. See, when it comes to life, I believe in doing what works best for you without trampling on what works best for the next man. The problem is that I think these days a lot of people are dismissive of religion for no real reason. I mean, I can understand if you had poor experiences with it in the past, but once again, I'm not even religious, but I think some people would benefit from being under a system that provides rules and regulations. It creates a path for you to walk, which Mahmoud talks about in this documentary. It provides some clarity, and to me, I thought that was dope. Not to get all philosophical on everybody, but when you walk around with no clarity, no path, you're basically a zombie. You have to find some type of purpose, and the easiest way to do that is to keep an open mind. And that's basically what Mahmoud was trying to explain. By him keeping an open mind, he was able to find a path to walk, which helped him find success. Anyways, during his religious journey, he starts to deep dive into the history of America, and at some point, he decided he didn't want to stand for the national anthem. And after, sitting for a few months, people started to notice, and that's when the backlash came. Now, in the midst of all that drama, I picked up on several things that were unintentionally funny because I can't turn off my analytical brain. The first of which is the person who led to all the drama, the radio host. Now, in the film, they point out that Mahmoud had been sitting for months without anyone noticing, and the people who did notice, they didn't seem to care. It was only when a local Denver radio host said he noticed, he felt compelled to ask if Mahmoud loved America because his pawpaw stormed the beaches of Normandy in World War II and bald eagles and flags and blah, 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 blah. So why is this funny to me? I'm sorry, I just got a weird sense of humor. I started laughing because the weirdest generation of Americans still alive to me are the early baby boomers, not the ones that were born like late Vietnam War like my parents. I'm talking about the post-World War II babies that were born late 40s, 50s, and even early 60s. It's funny to me because a lot of them have never served in the military, yet they have all these strong stances on how their deceased veteran parents would feel about certain situations. A bunch of my Paw served in World War II storming the beaches of Normandy, so I know exactly how they'd feel about the flag head asses. Listen, my father was in the military, and because of it, I've talked to so many soldiers over the years from living on military bases, and the recurring theme when asked, why did you join the military, is usually along the lines of, it paid for my school, or it got me out the hood, or I just wanted a Camaro. Hell, when I was 20, I was in the process of enlisting myself. Why? Because I was feeling stuck and I was looking for a way out of the hood once I left my parents' house. I was down bad on my luck. It had nothing to do with the flag. And the icing on the cake too is most soldiers, if you talk to them, they'll tell you they serve to defend your freedoms, such as freedom of expression, whether they agree with what you're saying or not. And don't get me wrong, you'll find your occasional indoctrinated soldier who's just a living embodiment of the film Team America World Police, but most soldiers will tell you, I serve so you're free to do whatever you like as long as it's legal. It's not that deep. So I just found it funny that this boomer almost ruined another man's life because he thinks he knows how his deceased veteran Paw would feel about the whole situation, even though he's never served himself. He's probably a draft dodger. Anyways, the sheer arrogance of some people will always be hilarious to me. It's wild too, because if you elect to watch the movie, when you get to that part where they interview the Denver host, you could tell he ain't sorry. He's preparing to die on that hill. The next funny thing I noticed was the entire city of Denver. So for those of you unaware, Mahmoud played for the Denver Nuggets, and I love films like this because they serve as time capsules. Once the backlash started, I found it slightly funny to see how Denver fans reacted because I'm not sure that would happen today. My shawty was sitting there like, why are you laughing? This is not a funny moment. What are you doing? I said, it's because Denver back in the 90s might as well have been another hick town in the Midwest. Keep in mind, this is pre-legal weed Denver. Those were Denver natives booing him. Real Caucasus Mountain people who love their country. And I laugh because if this happened today, folks wouldn't have cared as much. Denver is populated by implants who love to smoke weed. A bunch of hippies, basically. I just love time capsules because they demonstrate how much the world has changed. Funny point number 3. Mahmoud is often considered the prototype guard for today's modern NBA. He was a man ahead of his time. He was like the Sega Dreamcast. He was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. The thing is though, Steph Curry has nothing to do with this man's story, yet they brought Steph Curry in for the documentary to do an interview. It was so awkward too because it doesn't seem like Steph Curry wanted to be there. You could tell the directors were just like, say something nice about Mahmoud. Say something about his dribbling style, his dribble package, and him shooting a lot of threes just like you. They just wanted to use Steph's star power to sell the documentary and the trailers. But in all seriousness, he has nothing to do with the story, and it shows because he hilariously contributes nothing to the conversation. Man was just on camera towards the end of the documentary like, he played just like me. He was shooting threes just like me. Jokes aside though, you know what wasn't funny? The result of all this foolishness. After being blackballed and forced out of the NBA, he moves back to Mississippi where he attempts to build a home and start a new life. He's just minding his business. That resulted in the KKK burning down his home. None of this is spoilers, by the way. It's in the trailer. And that's my one critique of this documentary, is that it doesn't dive deeper into that chapter of Mahmoud's life. The Klan burned down this man's house, and the film was kind of just like, yeah. So that happened. Were there suspects? Was an investigation even open against the Klan for terrorizing this man and his family? Was anyone prosecuted? How did the radio host who started this all feel about the situation? Did he think that Mahmoud deserved to have a racist domestic terrorist group, because that's what the Klan is, a racist domestic terrorist group, burn down his home so now his wife and kids have no shelter? Do you view that as justice for someone who was silently protesting the hypocrisy of America? Hypocrisy that was only reinforced by yours and the other bad doers' actions? I'm just saying.